Hello, everyone. My name is Vince Nero, and welcome to the BuzzStream Weekly Content Roundup. This is a new series we've been doing where I invite a great guest on and we talk about some of the cool, crazy, funny, inspiring content that we see every week. This is something that I publish in our newsletter, so if you're interested in seeing any of this stuff, subscribe to our newsletter. Today is Thursday, May 14th, and my guest is Ellie Hearn. Ellie is the client partner over at Digitaloft. What's up, Ellie?
Not much. How are you?
Doing well. I'm, I think right now I'm coffee maxing would be, maybe water maxing. We
I
talked a lot about maxing,
we
and
did. We talked about picky bits, Maxine.
that's it.
I taught you about M&S picky bits. Anyone listening from the UK will totally know what I mean. And people listening from other places are going to be like, what the heck is that?
No idea. Well, let's jump into the content because the first thing I wanted to share with you is a bit of maxing. We were joking about how everybody's maxing, right? Like that's the thing. So let me share my screen and we'll get into it. First example here, Ellie, is maxing, the maxing trend. Obviously, this is fun maxing from Dua Lipa. Shared this little thing that I thought was funny about fun maxing, an internet slang term. And we were talking about how maxing is like, have we jumped the shark? Is it over? But Ellie, I think we're still rocking.
Still
I'm
going.
looking here at Google Trends and we got pheromone maxing is breaking out, sleep maxing, rope maxing, friction maxing, aura maxing, carrot maxing. So much maxing.
So
How do you feel about trends like this? I mean, would you still recommend at this point? I mean, you come up here, like, would you still recommend a client jump on a maxing trend?
So I think it's tricky. We did have an inbound request today asking for some commentary on a maxing trend. So I think journalists are still interested in it. I like it because it feels like a positive trend. And sometimes I think trends can be a bit negative, but this feels like just doing lots of a positive thing typically. So that's quite nice. I would say go for it. I think there's still legs in it.
Yeah.
But
All
yeah,
right. You heard it here, folks. Okay. Next post I want to share with you is this cool thing from Hipcamp. I'm curious, do you know what the Superbloom is? Do you have Superblooms?
so
Have you?
I actually Googled, do you have super blooms in the Lake District? Because I had a look at this and I thought, I want to see something like that. And I think the equivalent in the Lake District is like bluebells, which is happening right now. And it is pretty fantastic when you go and see and you're just in like a blanket of bluebells. So I can only imagine what it would look like in the locations on this list.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of living in San Diego for a bit, and this was the first I had heard of it, super bloom out there. So it's big in California. It's just like when all these wildflowers bloom, and you can go and check it out. And there's been a lot of content around this type of stuff. I feel like, Instagram, best Instagrammable spots for this. But this was a really interesting piece from Hipcamp where basically they took tons of data from the site iNaturalist and created what is basically this interactive map that, and it's kind of like a best list, right? It's like an index almost. But what they did was overlaid their data from Hipcamp, which is, you could go to Hipcamp and essentially rent camping spots. So like if you want to camp somewhere in the US, they have, $30 a night, whatever. It's like a Airbnb almost for camping. So this is awesome to me because I think it's that merging of like creative content, but you're also showing proprietary data and like you can easily just like lead a customer, right? And it's like bottom funnel, So I feel like we rarely see that in digital PR content, but I'm curious if you've seen this type of thing before.
I don't know if I have. And I feel like we did more maps a while ago. And I think maps in the UK have become less popular. But I want to
Mm.
bring maps back because I think it's a really fun way of showing the data. I think especially when you've got something like this that's lends itself very nicely to a map. I think it's a really, really cool way of showing the data. And having that interactive element I really like as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like every client now, my mind is going. It's like if you have any type of like map, rental company or whatever, like you should be doing something like this if you can, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one I'm going to share is the Kyoto Penguin relationship chart. So this is Kyoto Aquarium. Has been doing this, I guess, since 2020. I think might have been 2023. I'm getting my dates mixed up some of this content, but basically, this is like this huge like flow chart mapping the relationships between their big collection of penguins. It's like the cutest thing. It's the most confusing thing. It's the all the things. Ellie, what's your take on this?
I am so confused by it. I didn't realize that penguin relationships were so messy that they needed like a chart to organize it. But I just think it's so fun. And I feel like anything with penguins in is going to be a winner because they're just really cute. But yeah, I think this is just a really, really fun little thing. It kind of looks almost like a tube map, but not really.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
So yeah, I feel like it's just a really interesting play on the format. And yeah, it's so random. Like I wonder how much time this took to do and like what it actually like
Seriously.
it feels like just a fun project.
Yeah, they do have it on the wall at the aquarium too, which I thought was a cool connection there to like, digital content and real life stuff.
Yeah.
Like repurpose your content, Part of me thinks that something like this, the inherent like complexity of it makes it shareable. Like this, just like it's big, it's a colorful data visualization. Sometimes people just are like, I don't even understand this, but it's cool. I'm going to share it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like sometimes when things are so complex, people want to share them to almost like make it seem like they understand it or something. So they're like, yeah, look at this crazy data set. It's so cool. It's like, I have no idea what this means.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good take. Okay, next one I'm going to share is the state of air. This is from the American Lung Association. So they've been doing it, or I guess 1999, for 27 years. If you look back, I was checking on like the Internet Archive, you could see that they started developing more content out of just their big study. The cleanest cities, the most polluted cities, breakdown by states, that you can compare your air. You come down here, there's even more stuff. But what do you got, Ellie?
I love this. I think it's so relevant for who's done the study, which I always love to see. We are actually trialing some things for a few of our clients where we do a really big study with lots of different data points, and then we take out little smaller stories to send them out to journalists. Because I think the days when you'd send out a full index to a journalist and they'd cover the whole thing, they're gone. Those days are gone. And it's the journalist is maybe going to have a little bit of your story in a bigger, like they're going to have a little bit of your kind of campaign in a bigger story. And so I think these things lend themselves really, really nicely to doing that. And yeah, I just think I love a big data set and like pulling out lots of different angles from it. And I think it can be easy to fall into a trap of thinking you have to give away all your data in one go. But actually, I think sometimes just one really strong stat or one really strong angle from that bigger campaign can land really well.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. This one came to us from another agency in the UK, ERA. Somebody shared this with me, this space debris report. They basically like took a ton of information. You can actually check out the methodology. It was huge. A lot of it came from this site called Space Track, but basically what they did was mapped out a lot of different angles of like just the crap that's in space, number of tracked objects in space, what it is, satellites versus space junk, the different countries that are contributing to it historically over time. And my biggest takeaway with this is it is for this site that just sells components, engineering components. So like pretty boring stuff, right? Like you see a client like this come across your desk, you're like, cable ties, calipers, what am I going to write about? And I just thought this was a really creative way of thinking about an industry like this and creating something that journalists would want to write about.
Yeah, I love this. I feel like Era are always doing and spotting cool stuff. This feels like a very Era thing. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I agree. When I had a look at this, I thought, I wonder how this ties back to the product. But I actually think it does tie back to the product. I was like, no way this is going to be relevant, but I actually think it's really relevant. Yeah, totally agree. It seems like a really, really boring product, but actually it's so interesting. I have found that throughout my career that you get a client that you think is going to be really fun. And it's almost like everyone's already done the fun stuff because it's a really fun niche. Whereas when you have a client that maybe seems a little bit more kind of vanilla or dull, actually, no one's done that much interesting stuff. So there's like a lot more room for you to kind of do very interesting things like this.
Yeah, yeah, that was a great take, and I definitely know that feeling for sure. All right. Last one. This comes from Talker Research, and well, it comes from Dave and Buster's, I guess, via Talker Research. They commissioned Talker to do the survey. So if you don't know, I believe Talker is like the US version of OnePoll. So, you can basically hire them to do surveys for you, and they create like infographics. And, this was one that popped out to me. Do you know what Dave and Buster's is? Do you have Dave and Buster's in the UK?
We don't, but I only know it from an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, it's the where else can you get a steak and wine in an arcade setting? Yeah. Yeah, so that it's like an adult arcade, but also for kids, like, it's got a bar and you can get food and stuff. I used to go to birthday parties at Dave and Buster's, but I thought this was kind of really hit home for me, this idea of like America is in a fun drought, like people just aren't having fun. Clearly ties into Dave and Buster's, where you can go to have fun. I think this, for me, it hits the nostalgia thing because it is something that, again, like I used to go to, but then also like personally it hits that, like, I don't know, just resonates on a personal level. I think it's something that Talker is really good at. When you look at a lot of their studies that they put out, they really hit that emotion. And that's why I wanted to showcase this one.
Yeah, I think this is really nice. I think it's kind of like something a little bit silly, but they've made it serious. And I actually think it would resonate with a lot of people because I think, yeah, maybe everyone's in a bit of a fun drought. Like maybe we all need to be having a bit more fun. So yeah, I really like this one. And yeah, I think the UK equivalent OnePoll, they do the same thing where they have really like culturally relevant surveys all the time that really tie into almost like the zeitgeist a little bit. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. I feel like survey providers have very interesting the way they work. Like if anyone ever has a chance to do a training with a survey provider, I'd really recommend it. I did one with, can't actually remember. I think it might have been Census Wide a few years ago, and I feel like I learned so much about creating survey questions, figuring out what you can use surveys for, and just like how to analyze data.
Yeah, we had Rick Mon on from Talker on our podcast, and he shared some really great insights. I think the thing that resonated with me the most was like, I always ask people how they come up with the ideas, and it was so obvious, but like, he was like, the topic is just something that gets people talking, which is like why we named ourselves Talker. And I was like, oh yeah. Ellie, this has been awesome.
Yep.
I want to thank you so much for your time. I also want people to go check out Digitaloft and all the great content that they put out. If you have questions about this stuff, leave it in the comments, but subscribe to our newsletter. This is where I put all this. But yeah, if you have content that you want us to review, send them my way. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thank you, Ellie, so much.